Welcome again, everyone. Welcome again. Eh, in this session of the tutorial, we are gonna learn a little bit more about Bootstrap, React Bootstrap, and we're gonna talk about the grid system that Bootstrap offers us and how to use this grid system. So, as always, check the documentation, look at the documentation that it's in a react-bootstrap-github.io. If you go to this part that it's called layout, you will find the basic of the layout. So the layout, well, my suggestion is to create a container, and within this container you can create rows and you can create columns. The layout in Bootstrap can be composed with these four elements to create the different parts and different elements that are prevalent in our layout. The container is the first one that we are going to explain, and it isn't like something that sounds super complicated or super powerful even, but the container is a very interesting part of Bootstrap. So let me create a box um, to see what is going on. So because if I didn't put this box, it will be hard to see. So let's create a box that is background, and let's put a gray background in here and the padding just to have a quick, well, let's don't add a padding, let's just see like it is, and we will see what is going on. So box container, of course, this is my project, so I think it's important to take a look on the errors also. Container, it's not being declared, it's not being imported. So as I mentioned, it is super important for you to import the different parts of the components of Bootstrap in order to be using them. And I think this will make your code even more efficient because you're not loading all the components at once, and maybe some components of Bootstrap you're not gonna use them. So it's good that we don't load everything. Sometimes it's a little bit annoying, but well, it is something that it will be helpful. So as you can see, the container is a box that it's centered. So if we take a look in the CSS, the max width of this container is 1140, and the margin left and right is auto. So if you remember the basic lessons of CSS, to align a div, we have to put margin left and margin right auto. So this is how this container works. So lots of designs, lots of pages have this thing that it's called a container that allows you to have a div block centered and containing all the elements. And another cool part about it is that it's responsive. So the smaller we do our website, the smaller it will be the container, and the spacing between this right and left will be preserved. The third part that we are gonna see in here is called rows. So the rows are the basic containers for the grid system of React, of Bootstrap, sorry. So let's take a look on here. We have to create a row, and a row without columns, it doesn't make sense. So we're gonna create column also, and same thing, let's create row and column. Let's add something inside our column just to see what is going on inside of them. So if we create, for example, an h3 in here, hello, and let's try to add this, row. So our design will look something like this, right? Because we only have one column, and the columns in Bootstrap are a little bit intelligent, for say something. So if we put two columns, we will create a two-column system. So boom, something like this. But if we only add one column, it will occupy 100% of it. And if we create three columns, it will do something like this. So it will have three columns. And as the buttons, the columns can be applied with certain variants, can be modified with these certain variants. The variants in the columns are a little bit different than in buttons. Do you remember that in buttons we have something called variant, and you can change the color. In here you can change the width and where it breaks. So if you go to the documentation, to the bottom part, you will see what is going on in here. So what LG does, for example, the LG modifier allows things to live within 992, and for example the XS, it's allowed things to order in 576. I think it sounds a little bit abstract, but if I show you an example, it will be super easy to understand, I hope. So let's create XS, 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 and something that it's important that I didn't mention, the columns in the column system in Bootstrap, it's divided in 12. So we have 12 columns always. So if we want to have 3 columns, we will have to do 4, 4, and 4, because we have 3 columns and we want them to occupy these 12 spaces available. And if, for example, we do something like this, do and 2, we will have something like this, no? That it's a very big column that occupy 8 spaces, a small column that will occupy 2, and a smallest column that also will occupy 2. And this is 12, no? If we add all these numbers. And if we do, for example, LG, and with the braces in here, 6, well, let's do something more dramatic, 12, 12, and 12, we will see that because we are in a big device that it's LG, this will occupy 12. So this is why it creates not a column but a row, or a very big column, right? But if we reduce the size, because we have this XS on the bottom, we will divide this in XS like this. So these sound a little bit abstract, but try to play with these figures in here, and also try to read the documentation and see how the grid system works. So in the description of the video, I will add this page of documentation. It's super useful. It have a lot of examples, and you can try these examples and in your projects, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so this is for grids. I think the next session will be more focused in other types of components that you can find on Bootstrap, but try to experiment with grids, try to find different ways to create the grids, and we will do our last session adding all these components working together, and see how we can create a small website with this. Okay, so thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.